And good afternoon, everyone. This is Rooftop Sports, and here I am for my second streaming of the day. This is going to be the Fantasy Hockey Lottery. So for those that are my YouTube members, you guys know that I am a fantasy sports competitor. I do fantasy hockey, fantasy football, fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, and fantasy women's WNBA. And Epic Sea Films, how are you doing today?
I am doing great.
Yep, you have your Seahawks gear ready to go. I'm not even wearing mine quite yet, not until at least the Seahawks game. But here we are for fantasy hockey, and we're just doing a lottery right before the game. And breaking news, too, for our league. We have actually added 2 players on the team, so now there's going to be 10 total competitors, which also means expanded playoff spots. It's going to be up to 6. The first 2 will get the bye week, and then it's going to be whoever fights in the quarterfinals. So let's get to that. And to those who would like to follow more of my fantasy sports content, join that membership, that YouTube membership for just $5 a month. And now here are the competitors for our league. We've got Mike, and I'll start putting this in the drum. And how does the camera angle look in the drum? Does it look good, or do you think it has to be a little bit more exposed?
I think it's good.
You know, I'll bring it just a little bit lower, so that way it's this is just compliance because you're here to basically audit. And then we got Epic C, and I know that you have a very unique name on your team. What's it called in hockey?
Epic Icy.
I know. When I saw that, I literally was just laughing my butt off. And we got myself. We got Alex, who's actually going to be new to the league. He's actually joining us. We got Jay Trident Podcast. And we got the great famous Nelson. And what is he notorious for?
Nelson. Nelson never moves his lineups around, but they do show up for drafts.
And he pays. And we got a new player in Jeremy. Remember Jeremy? He was from our college days at UW Bothell. So he is going to join. And I'll do a quick recap of last year to answer your question, Korean man. Then we got Ian, who was back. And then we got Greg, who was the finalist. And then we got Mark, who actually signed up at the 11th hour last year. And he is going to be there for his second season to hopefully defend his championship. That's what he hopes. And now, as for last year, as what you wanted to see was, what were the results of last year? And just so you know, we don't have really that much time because we got to get ready for that Seahawks game. But I will happily show you what happened last season in fantasy hockey. So let's go to standings. And then we go to this. And of course, got to share that screen. There it is. The Fantasy Hockey League. And let's go with all the names as well. So Mark is known as the North Ojai Wood. I can't even say it. Then we got Greg's great team. That is Greg. Mike is known as Macaroni Cheese. I am most known to be the 1980 U.S. hockey team. Ian is known as Sticks Up. Jay Trident Podcast is known as Joe's Scary Team. Then we got Epic Icy and Nelson, known to be the Seattle Triple Cheeseburgers. That's going to be his team. And in the results, it was, here's what happened. Greg finished number 1. Mark finished number 2. Macaroni and Cheese finished number 3. And I finished number 4. And I literally got into the playoffs at the skin of my teeth. And that's what I seem to do best, don't I? I always seem to make the playoffs at literally, like, what? The last moments? Like at the skin of my teeth kind of thing?
Yes.
That's what happens. And now going into the playoffs, here is also what happened. It was actually a very tightly contested match, or playoff. We had myself and Greg. We tied at 5-5, but he won because of tiebreakers because he owned the number 1 seed. And let's see how close it really was. Anything that I could have won, there was nothing really much I really could have done. So unless... there was not really much I could have done unless getting some more assists. I guess helping with that plus and minus. I don't know. I don't even know how to count this stuff, to be honest with you. And then Macaroni Cheese and Mark's team, they were also having a very tightly contested matchup, and it led to the finals between Greg and Mark. They were also next door neighbors before and also play softball together. Mark won by literally at the narrowest of margins, and let's see how close this really was. It was indeed very close. Greg, all he needed was just literally one power play point to win it all. That is all he literally needed. But unfortunately, not everything works out the way it does. And also, I forgot to share the screen, didn't I? Wow, this is embarrassing. Well, here's what it was. Here was that score. And he's got to try to do better than he did last season. And I'll show that standings just one more time. There was the standings right there. Everything was close. But now we got to get into the lottery. And Epic IC, you know the drill, what to do. You type in who gets pick of what pick. So okay. You'll entrust me to put these back into the lottery drum once again, so we make sure we maximize the compliance. We've got Mike, Mark, that's 2. Greg, that's number 3. Ian is number 4. Nelson, number 5. Jeremy, number 6. Jay Trident, number 7. Alex, number 8. Myself, number 9. And last but not least, Epic IC at number 10. And let me know when you're ready for me to conduct the drawing.
Okay.
And
bum, bum.
All right, ready?
Bum, bum, start rolling. Roll, 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 roll your drum around. Roll, roll, roll your drum around. Let's stop drumming and rolling.
And now, obviously, do I open it and I have to look away?
Yes.
And am I doing it correctly?
Yes, you're looking at the ceiling. Good.
Tell me when to pick. Take
draw.
Pick. All right. The 10th overall pick will be made by Alex. And Alex, he's a regular in fantasy football, will be joining fantasy hockey for the first time. It is unknown how he will do. I don't even know what his knowledge is, but I guess we will see. So he will be the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. And now, here we go again.
Okay. Look up. Okay, now draw. Pick.
The 9th pick in this year's draft will be made by Mike. And Mike is not going to like that. He's going to spell controversy written all over it. But Mike had a rough start, but he picked it up in the middle of the season, achieving 3rd in the regular season, but would fall to Mark in the semifinals in a tight game and ultimately finished 4th place. So now he has the 9th pick in this year's draft.
Pick.
And now the 7th pick in this year's draft will be made by defending champion Mark.
And that's the 8th pick, Mark.
And that is the 8th overall pick. And Mark, who decided to join fantasy hockey at the 11th hour before the inaugural season, finished all the way in 2nd seed in the regular season and eventually made the huge upset on Greg to win his first ever championship. He will now own the 8th overall pick.
Pick.
The 7th pick in this year's draft will be made by Epic IC. Epic IC had a clever name in his name, but his cleverness did not necessarily translate to a good hockey season. He was actually one of the worst teams in the league. And now we're going to go into the 6th pick.
Pick.
And now the 6th pick in this year's draft will be made by myself. That will be Joe. known as the 1980 U.S. hockey team. Joe, who narrowly made the playoffs on the final day of the season, would eventually go down in semifinals to Greg on tiebreakers, but eventually finished third place. So at least he got his money's worth in some ways. And now we're going to our top 5.
Yep. Joe, also known as JoJo.
No wonder sometimes some people call me the big potato.
Pick.
And the 4th pick, or shall I say the 5th pick in this year's draft, will be made by Nelson. Nelson, the man who never checks his team. And in summary, he literally never checks his team and ended up finishing last place. Does that surprise anyone at this point?
No.
And now we're going to go into, I think we're in the 4th overall pick.
Yep. 4th overall pick. Pick.
And the 4th pick in this year's draft will be made by Jay Trident Podcast. Now, in summary of Jay Trident Podcast, he got off to a hot start, but a terrible month of December led him to fall apart. He picked it up later in the season, but it was a little too late, missing the playoffs. And now we are at picks 1, 2, and 3. It will either be Greg, Ian, or Jeremy. And now let's get into the game.
Pick.
The 3rd pick will be made by Jeremy. And Jeremy, who is a pure Canadian and a pure hockey fan who went to college with Joe and Epic IC, played previously in fantasy football and basketball, and with his huge knowledge of hockey, he will be a favorite to win it all. Watch out, Greg and Mark. You got some serious competition.
Pick.
And the 2nd pick in this year's draft will be made by Greg. Greg is the number 2 overall pick, and Greg, who pretty much was the only player who really knew hockey well in the inaugural season, was the overwhelming favorite to win the championship. He narrowly defeated Joe in the semis, but eventually suffered a huge upset to Mark, who doesn't really know much hockey, which means that the number 1 overall pick, and this guy had a rough start to his fantasy regular season, picked it up, but narrowly missed the playoffs by Joe. The number 1 overall pick will be made by Ian. And congratulations, Ian, to getting your first overall pick. And that is definitely going to do it for the draft. And Epic IC, I see that you have the 7th overall pick. And how do you feel about that?
7 is a great number because it's almost the middle of 10.
So you'll take it.
Yes, because my team will be more balanced. I like having balanced teams.
I guess so. Well, that is the conclusion of this year's draft, and I will be taking off just real quickly. And I guess to give a thought on my 6th overall pick, I don't really care because I don't really know hockey, so it's really just going to be a game of luck. But we'll just see how it goes. But an announcement on October 5th, 2025, in the evening, I'll be considering to do another fantasy live show. This one will probably be a members only stream. So if you would like to be a part of the stream, and also you could actually join into the show and be a part of the stream itself, you can also be part of the party. It's going to be at the Snoqualmie Mexican food place and bowling and pizza. So please, or if you want to meet me there, you are welcome to do so as well. If I get enough people there, pizza will be on the house. So you'll get free pizza if you do join me in person. But that's going to do it. Thank you very much. And Epic IC, any last minute advice?
Yes. Follow me anywhere you find C Films at C Films. And also remember, don't drink, have fun, live life, and just enjoy the ride of fantasy sports.
Well, thank you very much for that advice, Epic IC, and I will see you within the next 20 minutes. So do what you got to do, take your little breather, and let's get into Seahawks football. And everyone else, have a good day and tune in to my Seahawks show